We have an endpoint URL. We have our struct API client here. We'll create a static function called fetch cocktail. And we have an endpoint URL string we need to go create a model for our cocktails. Let's create a new file, call it cocktail. Swift file, cocktail, struct, cocktail, and what does the cocktail look like? If I grab my Postman here, top level we have drinks, so a drinks array. So we'll start off by saying we have a struct, we'll call it drinks wrapper is quotable. It has a drinks array of cocktails. And cocktail is also quotable. What does a cocktail have? A cocktail has, if we go to Postman, what are we interested in? We're interested in a string drink. In that case, it's an Arctic fish here. So string drink is a string. What else do we have? Do we have an image?
String drink thumb.
We have string drink thumb. Thank you, sir. Type string. We have a category, we have alcoholic, we have a glass, and interesting coming up, we have ingredients. Some of them are null. Maybe I do that as an exercise. Use this, make an array, and only get me those without nulls in there. But for now, we'll just grab the drink and the image. So this is the cocktail image. And this is the cocktail name. And we have our drinks array. Great. So let's go back to our API client. We have an endpoint URL. And here we're not importing network helper, right? This would be like importing network helper, very similar here. Import network. Import network helper, right? Did we give network helper stars?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right, let's get a URL here. So guard, actually, doesn't really matter. So we'll use Alamo Fire. I've done most of the heavy digging for the documentation on how to use Alamo Fire here. So we'll type in Alamo Fire. But those are one of the things, like as somebody using a third-party library, you have to go through the documentation yourself, very similar to like what a Searing and Kelby did, and go through the documentation, go through the sample code or whatever. Even Shania, right, you came across some API, some third-party library you're trying to use, right? We have to go through the documentation and read it up and see how it's being used. But here we need a URL, like we always had before. So we need a URL. So let's get a URL, guard let URL equal to URL string, and we have endpoint here. So here we have a URL. So we use Alamo Fire. We say Alamo Fire dot request. That request, it takes in a URL, or it could take in a URL request, but here we're just taking a URL. We pass in URL. And we query the response from it. And the response with completion here. And here we just say response. Great. So this looks like what the request is. So alamofire.request, the request you pass it in, and here you want to get the response back, the response you get back from the server. Very similar again to our networking helper. This is very similar to what we did with network helper, right? Right, here we're just using alamofire. So alamofire is replacing the, yeah, exactly. Yes.
Actually, I'm getting an error. It says alamofire has no memory name to request.
If you just type in, did you import alamofire here?
Yes.
And you say alamofire.request here. Weird.
Sounds like it's everybody.
Type out the line and then build.
How do we open it again? Because I had to close mine. We have to go to the project and then open up the workspace.
Yeah, workspace, yes, correct. Type out the code, build it. Maybe you have to close Xcode and reopen. And then let me know how it works out. I'll wait here.
It didn't work. Can't confirm, doesn't work.
Doesn't work for you either?
No.
So alamofire.request doesn't work for you guys. Even after you, Cameron? Interesting, interesting. Okay.
He's the last resort.
We all have the same Xcode, right?
So don't work for Cameron.
Anybody else worked for them? Alamofire.request URL? Interesting. It's just for me. I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one. We all on the same Xcode version, correct?
Which version of alamofire?
Alex.
I'm using Alamofire, the latest version of it.
Alex.
Let me 1 second. Let me go back. I'm using the latest version here.
When I do dot request, I get a capital R, not the lowercase one. I don't know if that means anything to you. Debugging, but
1 second.
Yeah, I do that too, but response doesn't come up afterward.
Let me
I
slack.
get no response.
Let me slack this out.
I don't even have regular Alamofire. I have extension.
There's, if you do alamofire notifications, dot request.
Create new.
I don't even have regular Alamofire.
Again, the version I have is 502. I slacked out a snippet. Anybody want to volunteer? Trigger that snippet and let's see what's happening.
Looks just like mine, but, go to the project right map.
So those don't work.
Yeah. It's just that anything works less.
Get that extra error now. Oh, wow.
Alex, you have to change alamofire to capital AF, according to Stack Overflow.
It's like a new thing for.
For
I mean, this is
any
the first install.
alamofire 5 branch, you just gotta change alamofire that request to capital AF dot request.
Right on 22 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does work.
AF like this.
Yeah.
That's a pain in the ass.
AF like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, it doesn't work for me. All right. That's interesting. Can you slack that out to us? That link you got?
And it'll be a URL convertible, a URL request convertible. But now we have another.
Now what? What's the Okay. Well, it works for me. Still a mystery. All right, how are we doing? Is it working? Are you guys good? Okay, let's continue on. So as we see, Alamo Fire works for me here. AF works for you. Double check Mel's computer here. You have a question?
Yeah, mine doesn't see Alamo Fire anymore. Like when we import Alamo Fire, it doesn't like it gives me red, no such module.
Close Xcode and reopen it and run again.
No, did you do capital A, capital F?
No, she's saying import, the import module.
I closed it.
The import mod. Does it build?
It has this red arrow. Yeah.
Does it run? Okay, so continuing on here, what does a response have? A response has, let's see, response.
I did that and it was bad.
Response has data. Response has error. Response has a request. Right? Those are some of the things a response has. There's much more than that, but for now, we're interested in data and error. So let's continue on here. We're just exposing us to what other third-party libraries are out there. You'll come to a point where the code we're doing, Alamo Fire does way more than you want it to do. It's like taking like a tractor to a birthday party, right? Okay, so let's see if we have an error here. First, check to see if we have an error. If not, let's get to our data. Equal to response. If let. Okay, cool. How we doing? We on board here?
No, this thing just bugged out. It doesn't see my job anymore.
Let's update our fetch cocktail. Fetch cocktail will be a completion. Add escape in here. Alamo Fire has its own result type. Everybody, Alamo Fire has its own result type. Before result type was a result type in Swift, Alamo Fire had their own result type. So they have their own result type here, and we have result. It takes in only one value, the success value. Our success value will be a cocktail. Again, our result type in Swift that we know, how many types does it take? Two, right? Success and failure. Alamo Fire, if you're using Alamo Fire, it takes in one result type or one value, and that value is the success value. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nothing.
AF result, Alex.
AF result.
Yeah.
Okay. Where am I? What line are we talking about?
It's probably different for you.
Oh, this guy? Oh, AF dot result?
For everyone else, it's probably.
Okay. I think I like it my way. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Okay. If we have an error, let's capture the error. And we have data here. This is where we use our JSON decoder. So here, let's add escaping is just a completion that takes a result type, and we need cocktail. Doesn't take in any arguments. Yeah. All right, so in our data, let's make our model. Make our cocktail model. Yeah. Are you paying attention? Are you in the front today? Wonder why. All right, so let's get results.
Can you go back up to
Go back up to the completion handler.
resolve? Why did not see it's not?
People saying AF dot result.
No, AF results.
AF result type.
This.
Okay, so here we have results and we say try JSON decoder. And here decode. What are we decoding? What's our top level object here? The drinks wrapper, right? Not an array, be careful there. Right, if we go back to our postman, wherever it is,
Oh, yeah.
right, it's a dictionary. Always be careful there. That could throw us off. So here we have our drinks wrapper.self, and here we have data. At that point we have our results, and we say completion, success, results dot cocktail, which is one cocktail. Let me make this better. Let's make this better. Since we have only one cocktail in our array, let's say if let cocktail equal to results dot first, no, results dot drinks dot first. Okay, perfect. And now we could say completion, success, and cocktail. And if we have an error, we catch an error here in our catch block with a failure error. Again, yes, this is very similar to our network helper library that we wrote. But keep in mind, this is just touching the surface of anything Alamofire does. There's so much more Alamofire could do, but it depends on the complexity of your project. For our project here, Alamofire might be just a bit too much, but like a big company-wide where you're dealing with more network requests and failures, Alamofire would become in more handy. Cool. So make sure your definition says fetch cocktail with a completion, so we could get the cocktail back in our view controller. That result here is part of Alamofire, because our Swift result is this. If it was a Swift result type, it would say cocktail, and then I'll give it an error. Cool?
Another error.
What's that, Christian?
There's an error on that last solution, not failure.
Down here?
Yeah.
Since number failure of AF result cocktail produces result type systems failure, but context expects AF.
In the catch block?
Yeah.
In the catch block, just put a print statement for now. All right. And let's go back to our view controller and write code for our API client.
Still an error?
Just put a print statement in the catch block. We need to be in the same level with Alamofires for now. Okay. Oh, that needs to be programmatic probably. Aha. Okay, cool. How are we doing? Can we move on? If you get an error in the catch block, just put a simple print statement there. That'll suffice for now. And let's go to our view controller. Since we're dealing with SnapKit and doing programmatic UI as well, we will delete our storyboard and we'll set up our code programmatically using SnapKit. Mel? Just put a print statement without the error. Don't interpolate the error there. Okay, so view controller, let's go ahead and delete our storyboard. Everybody? Let's go to our info plist.
We're deleting where?
The storyboard. Go to our info plist. Info plist right below the launch screen storyboard. Info plist, everybody. Delete main storyboard. Go to the application scene manifest, scene configuration, application session, and delete storyboard name. Delete main storyboard here. Okay. And let's go to the scene delegate to set up our code. Scene delegate, window scene. Set up our window. Our window becomes UI window. Frame is UI screen. That main, that bounce. And window, that window scene is window scene. And window dot root view controller equal to view controller. And lastly, window make key invisible. Yeah, we should refactor that view controller to call it cocktail view controller at some point. Yeah. How are we doing? We good with the scene delegate? If you're done with the scene delegate, refactor the view controller, call it cocktail view controller. Go back. Good? So my view controller, I'll refactor the view controller, rename, cocktail view controller. Great. And give my view controller background color. View that background color equal to dot system background. Let's build and make sure everything still works. Build and run. As you see, our Xcode project starts to get bigger now. There's more tasks. So the more dependencies you have, the slower your project is going to run, or take to run, sorry. Wait till tomorrow, 5,000 tasks. So you want to keep your dependencies at a minimum, really. Anytime you start having like more than 10 dependencies in your project, like 10 different imports, not imports, but pods. Like rethink how can you make that smaller? Okay, so running our app loads with a white screen, correct? Because we have our system default background here, correct? Yes? Okay, let's continue on. Let's create a new file. We'll call it cocktail view. It's a subclass of a UI view. Subclass of UI view. It's a cocktail view. Bless you. And here we'll be using SnapKit. So let's import SnapKit. Again, SnapKit is a third-party library for auto layout. One of the most popular, if not the most popular, Swift third-party library for doing auto layout. What do we need here? We'll start off with an image. So we'll say, well, first of all, let's fix that up. Create custom. And this is my cocktail view. I'm using my snippet there that we've created just to create a custom view that has an init with frame, required init, and a command init. So we'll start off. We'll have the name of the cocktail, cocktail name, label, and we'll have a cocktail image. Public cocktail, lazy var. Is of type UI label. And here we have a label, UI label, return label, and let's give it a font type. So label dot font. We'll say UI font preferred font. We'll say large title. And we'll say label dot number of lines. We'll say 2. We'll give it a default text. We'll say cocktail name. And then we'll go on to our image. So public, lazy var, cocktail, image is of type UI, image view. Image view equal to a UI image view. Return my image view. Image view content mode, will set it to aspect fit. We'll give it a default image. UI image, a system image of photo. I wonder if there's a drink. Is there a drink in SF symbols? Was it? There's no like glass or anything? Really?
I checked glass actually.
Glass, no, nothing representing the
I
beverage?
find glass and eyeglasses.
That's it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. We need to file a radar. Content mode, image. Okay, cool. Moving on. Yes. Where are you?
Like, image.
Good? Okay, let's keep going down. Let's create a private var to set up our constraints for. Yeah, private func to create image, setup image, cocktail image. Constraints. What do we normally do here?
Add subview,
Add subview, very good. And the subview we add in is our cocktail image.
the translation equals to false.
Aha. So with Snapkit, we don't have to say that translate stuff there. We'll simply say, we'll start saying cocktail image dot snap.
Do we have to import Snapkit?
Yes, we did. So here we're using Snapkit for the first time. So yes, on line 46, we're doing add subview cocktail image. We're about to set up the constraints for the cocktail image using Snapkit. So whatever view you use in a Snapkit, you specify the view, then you go ahead and you say dot SNP for Snapkit, dot make constraints. So you could make constraints or you could remake constraints. Here we're making constraints. And here we type in make. And let's go to the documentation before I continue on, because this one becomes very handy. Let's go to Snapkit here. Where's the documentation? I'll slack it out once I get access to the correct one. Installation, usage, documentation, this guy. Slack that out. Okay, so here we have Snapkit, one of the biggest libraries for auto layout in Swift. Requirements, you're running Xcode 9 and plus, Swift 4.0 plus. Installation, we did that already via CocoaPods. We said Snapkit includes Snapkit here. It shows you, so that's like one of the best documentations you could come across. It gives you almost about every use case of using the tool. So here, if you have a view, you have a view called box. So you go ahead and you add box in the super view. In our case, we just say add subview box. And then you say box snap make constraints. In that case, you want to make constraints top, left, bottom, and right, right? And here, they go one step further. They're like, hey, we could make this even shorter. Add subview box, and just make edges equal to the super view with some inset, right? So that's awesome. Things you could do, snap left, snap right, top, bottom, lead in, same as we did with native Xcode. Center, baseline, priority, you could give things priority over others. Edges, size, center. Update, if you only want to update specific constraints, there's an update constraints here. And there's also a remake constraints. You could also access the safe area layout guide. If you have a bar at the top or the bottom, you could also access that. Right? So it's very good. So let's go back to our project. Our image, we want our image to take up the entire view. So we'll simply say make, where am I here? Make dot top lead in, bottom, and trail in equal to self. And we'll make sure to call our setup in our common init. So before we go further, we'll just test this out. Because yes, this is one line that saves you So here we don't have to say translate auto resizing mask, for example. So cocktail dot translates auto resizing mask equal to false. So we don't have to do that. That's not needed. And if we were to do this line of code here, we'd have 4 lines of code. But here you could nest it, or you could chain them. Sorry, you could chain them together. Okay. So SnapKit really helps there with auto layout in code.
You have to activate or?
No activate, nothing. Like it does that, like the framework itself. The minute you say snap make, behind the scenes it activates it and for you.
And this makes it the whole screen.
Yeah.
How you change it?
How what?
How you change, like, how you make it half screen?
We could make priority, we could make offset, we could make multipliers the same as we did before. Anything you want, anything extra you want to do, just take a look at the docs there. Cool. All right, so let's test this out before we go further. So cocktail name we'll come back to. Let's just test out the cocktail image. Let's go to our view controller and inject this view into our view controller. Yes, sir.
Sorry, just going back to the constraint thing. In the shorter version, I just want to see if
The insets,
yeah, it says you can do like edges. Is that all of them?
yes.
So instead of like a
Top, bottom, you could just do edges.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So here, let's do private let and cocktail view equal to cocktail view. And let's inject our cocktail view in our load view. View equal to cocktail view here. All right, cool. So we have our cocktail.
We're not calling super.
It's if you're doing programmatic UI, you cannot call super here. It breaks up the setup, what Xcode does for us, right? But super you call here in your view to load life cycles, but not in your load view. Okay? Only when programmatic UI is happening. Okay? So moving on here, we have our background color. Let's just run this. This should be enough, unless something else is incorrect. So here we should at least have our photo showing up, correct? All right, cool. Our photo shows up. Let us go ahead and call our API. View did load, what should I have? Okay, before I do that, let's just do private function fetch cocktail. Doesn't take in any arguments. And we just say API client dot fetch cocktails, our result. We switch on our result. And we switch on our result, we say case failure error. Just print error. Else we have success. Awesome, we got our cocktail. We got our cocktail. So here we'll just update UI. Actually, let's actually write an update UI. Function update UI. Put that in a dispatch queue. Not this one, that's legacy. And just put this here because this is UI code. Cool. In our update UI, what do we have so far? Only an image. We need to import Kingfisher for the image part. I'll come right back here. Let me just do one import statement. Everybody just please import Kingfisher here. And now you can continue typing. So update UI, the one UI we have is cocktail view dot image. With our own framework on image view, we had an extension called get image. Everybody remember? Yes, get image. So Kingfisher, same thing, extension on image view. In that case, they have an extension KF here dot set image for resource. And that resource, we need a URL. So we'll get a URL. We'll say guard let URL or image URL equal to cocktail dot URL string cocktail dot, what is it? This one. Else return. And here we could say image URL. So this here is the Kingfisher syntax for updating, or rather downloading a URL and placing it on our image view. And yes, there's also a completion handler if in case something goes wrong. But for our use cases here, we'll just say kf set image with the URL. You could also give it a placeholder image. You could give it activity indicator. There's a lot of things you could give this. And there's more on the documentation on Kingfisher's GitHub page.
You could do it with source?
Yes, with resource.
With resource.
Yeah. All of those APIs not API, but all of those frameworks we've used today, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more. That's like, as developers, we have to go on that documentation website and see what else can we do, right? What else can we do with those? But that's just like the basic getting started. Okay, so we're calling our update here in a dispatch. It calls it here. And let us run it and see if we have an image. If we get our first cocktail. Wait, we're not gonna get our first cocktail. Impossible. We need to call fetch cocktail and view the load. Yes? Now let's see if we get a cocktail in time for lunch. Oops, yay, got a cocktail. I don't know the name of it. Who knows the name of this cocktail? Ah, this guy. Look at him very close. All right, very good. Let us go give it an image. Let's go give it a label, right? Our snap kit worked. Let's go give it a label.
Every time you run it, you get a different one? 'Cause it's
Yeah, but we'll do code for that. We'll do code for that. But now let's add a label so that we don't go to Greg for each time we want to know the cocktail name.
Or the smoothie.
Yes. All right. So I'll give you guys a heads up. Basically, I want the label at the top. I want a label at the top here, like right below my safe area. I want a label with the cocktail name, and the label is on top of the image. I'll give us a heads up while we use